News Channel 5 network. This is Urban Outlook. This program sponsored by Connie London, a certified agent at the Insurance Exchange.
Hello and happy holidays, and welcome to the holiday edition of Urban Outlook, a forum from African American issues. As you know, I'm April Eaton, and what we like to do this time of year is invite some of our famous favorite friends to the set and talk a little bit about holiday traditions. Christmas is, of course, the time for those traditions, time for family. So I'd like to welcome some of my favorite ladies of the News Channel 5 newsroom. We've got Vicki Yates, who is an anchor on our set, also does all those wonderful stories about children. We have Tuwanda Coleman, as you all know, talk of the town and positively Nashville, and new to our team, but not new to Channel 5. You've probably seen her for the last couple of years, Kimberly Davis, who's a reporter in our newsroom. Thank you so much, ladies, for being here.
Thanks for having us.
And as you see, we have all of these lovely victuals, so we have to kind of partake and kind of get a good conversation going and a little bit of food and sit around our table here and have some good conversation. So again, welcome and welcome, and thanks so much for joining us.
Thank you. Thank you.
And as I said, you know, this is a time for traditions, and food is one of them, obviously, when we get together over the holidays. But I want to also make sure that folks know a little bit about each of you. And I want to start with you, Kimberly, because you're fairly new to the News Channel 5 team, although we said new, and then we figured out you've been here 2 years. But we've obviously been watching your stories, and I want to just maybe start with kind of a little bit about where you are and who you are and where you're from and all that great stuff.
Well, I'm Kimberly, but everybody calls me Kim, so Kim is just fine.
Okay.
I'm a Jersey native. I'm a Jersey girl at heart. I always say you can take the girl out of Jersey, but you can't take the Jersey out of the girl. I think people have grown to know that about me.
She doesn't sound like a Jersey girl, though, does she?
Well, I'll tell you a fun story. I used to sound like a Jersey girl, but I had to get rid of my accent when I moved to Minnesota. And the hardest word for me was on. Everybody would say, why do you say on like that? I would say on. That's how people in New Jersey say on. So I'm like, what do you mean, on? They're like, no, it's on. I'm like, L? Like lawn without the L? And they're like, yes. So it took me about 3 months to get on, but I switched over.
But you don't sound like you have a Minnesota accent either, so you didn't pick that up.
No, I didn't. I did not. But I've always said y'all, so everybody has always said I had a bit of a southern accent, like pecan pie.
Yes.
So it's a little bit of a southerner at heart, but Kim, I'm outgoing. I have a dog. His name is Stanley.
I read about your dog. Your
Stanley.
sun dog.
Yes. My parents were mad when I put that up. Like he is.
Like a child.
He is my little child. He's 2.5. He's an English Springer Spaniel, and I love him.
And he's cute.
Oh, thank you, little Stanley.
Excellent. Well, thank you for sharing. And Vicki, you all have been doing some dynamic things throughout this entire year on News Channel 5. I wonder, as you think back through the year and think back on stories that made an impact, what comes to your mind?
Well, not necessarily stories that I've done, although they've made an impact too, I think. But I think about the Smoky Mountain fires. I think that's one of the stories that kind of stands out because it happened so quickly that people weren't able to get out. And I think there were some balls dropped. And you just never think of anything bad happening in the Smoky Mountains.
Yeah.
You know, it's sort of like our resort for this area. And the many homes that are no longer existing, I think that was one of the bigger stories, one of the ones that touched me the most.
You all did a fantastic half-hour show, I think, following that as well. That was a beautiful idea and powerful stories that were told about the folks and how they were trying to recover in that area.
Exactly.
Great.
And they're trying to get people to go back to the Smokies because even though a lot of it has burned down, most of it is still standing.
Yeah.
And so they want you to come and patronize and bring your money back in. Go to the Smokies.
We all know that you all are news women and information women, and you tell great stories all the time. But I tried to dig around and find some little interesting facts before we share some of your memories of the holidays. And one of the things that I found interesting about you, Vicki, is that you actually started reporting when you were a junior in college.
I was. What happened? I'll make it a long story short.
Talent,
I was.
that's what it was.
No, it really was not. I was an intern at WJIM, the television station at Michigan State. It was not connected to Michigan State other than they accepted interns. So I was an intern there, and one day the news director said, somebody's out sick, I need you to go and do a story. And I'm like, what? Literally, I'm like, what are you talking about? He said, I need you to go out and do the story. And I'm like, well, I'm not ready. He's like, you've been, learning everything around here. You're an intern. This is a great opportunity. So I remember, okay, the story was about prices at a grocery store, something about they were going up. And I remember doing the story, and I was so nervous that I was holding the microphone, and it was shaking like this.
Wow.
And my cameraman kind of like held my arm out of the frame. So I did the story. I was completely not properly dressed. I had on a hot pink top, which would have looked good in, the club or something. I was in a supermarket. It was not passing muster. So
anchor wear.
No, it was not anchor wear, trust me. So I do the story, I come back and I put it together, and back in those days, you had to literally put it together. You had to edit it and put everything together, and I did it. And I guess I didn't do too badly because they offered me a job at the end of my internship.
Wow.
But that was a scary time. But it was after they just needed me at the time. It wasn't because I was good. They needed me to fill a space.
They saw something in you way back then. That's what we're going to say. And you've been news director through the years. I don't know if people have known all
I've been a
those.
editor. I've been a producer. I've done seriously everything but sweep the floor, and I can do that too.
That is fantastic. And I found out a little news fact about you too, Miss Tuwanda Coleman. Yes. So you too, right after college, started here at News Channel 5. So talk about employee loyalty, because you have been here nonstop since then. But I understand that you have your desire or your interest in TV came because you used to watch Oprah on this channel. Is that true?
Yes. That's exactly right. I grew up watching Oprah Winfrey become the first African-American woman to anchor the news here in Nashville. And I was just a sophomore or junior in high school. And prior to that, I wanted to be a teacher or a nurse. So after I saw Oprah Winfrey, and I had a speech coach, I was very involved in the forensic speech and debate team, and she said, have you seen Oprah Winfrey on Channel 5? And I said, yes. And she said, have you ever thought about becoming a news reporter and anchor? And I thought, no. Why would I? I had never seen anyone like me on TV before, so I really had no one as a role model at that point. And so I said no, but she planted the seed, and all of a sudden, I started to think about the possibilities of someday being on Channel 5, working with Oprah Winfrey at News Channel 5.
Wow.
Of course, Oprah left before I even ever got a chance to work with her,
but
she was my
in her footsteps. With your own show, you're kind of following in her footsteps because you're focused on that great news in the community that's happening, and she used to tell those great news stories as well.
Yes, she did, and I still consider her a mentor in so many ways that she gives back to the community, and I really look up to her for that. And I just wanted my family to be able to watch me on TV. At some point, I wanted my mom to look up and say, "There's my daughter," and be proud of me. Growing up in a large family in the country, in the middle of a small town, you just never really had those aspirations to think outside of your smaller boundaries. And so that sort of opened my eyes, and I got a scholarship to Western, and sort of the rest is history, in that I started here at News Channel 5 right after I graduated, 2 weeks later.
Fantastic.
yeah.
And what our fans may not know about Miss Kimberly Davis is is that you had a little stint at Comcast Sportsnet.
Yes.
And you kind of were a sports reporter covering the Sixers, the Flyers, the Phillies.
Yes.
So you know sports, huh?
I mean, a little bit. A little bit. That was my first internship. I was kind of all over the place in college. My mother is in education, so her big thing was, oh, you need to go to school, get your degree to be a teacher, because teachers, they have steady jobs. You know, you're guaranteed a job when you get out of college. Unlike journalism.
Right.
So that's my mom was hoping I was going to be a teacher, but probably around sophomore year, tail end of sophomore year, I said, all right, I've taken all of my electives that I could possibly take just to, you know, get that out of the way.
Right.
Now I have to pick an actual major. So I majored in journalism and took a minor in education. But after it took me so long to finally say, okay, Mom, this is what I'm doing, it took me some time to get an internship. So my mom actually helped me out with the internship.
Moms are good about those kinds of things. They're not afraid to ask.
She had a friend that her friend's son worked at Comcast Sportsnet in like San Francisco or somewhere, but he still had ties in Philadelphia. Philly is market 4, so it's a big market. It's extremely difficult to get an internship in a market like Philly because everybody and their mother wants to work in Philly. So thankfully I had that connection. I was there for about 4 months, and I knew a lot about football and basketball. I didn't know much about hockey or like soccer or a whole lot about baseball. So that was a life changer because every day I'd have my little app on my phone going off with the scores and who was traded here, and I learned a lot just by being at that internship, and it was very valuable for me.
Excellent.
And I actually ended up liking sports more, like hockey. I love hockey now. I go a lot of the Preds games, so that was interesting. And
So you can fill in sometimes with and get you right on in there. Well, now you've heard lots and lots about the ladies. We're going to share some holiday favorites and some holiday memories when we come back. Stay with us. We'll be right back. Ladies, grab some stuff here.
Okay.